Hi, my name is Sunny Nicholson, and I hope you're having a blessed day. Today, I want to take a few minutes of your time and talk with you about my favorite style we learned about this semester, which is Impressionism. When discussing its history, it's actually considered the modern era, and it takes place approximately between the years of 1860 and 1890. It began in Europe after social and political revolutions led to the replacement of old monarchies with more fair and impartial governments. During this time, new developments like roads, railways, steamboats, and even some electronical forms of communication made it easier to connect isolated communities and governments. This also caused an expansion in the industrialized cities. During this period, there were also many medical developments, like the introduction of the first vaccines for a number of different illnesses. These advancements overall prolonged life expectancy by reducing the rate of infant mortality and curing fatal diseases. While this should have been a good thing, it actually led to Europe's population hitting extremely high record levels, and it created a shortage in food and housing for the people. By the end of the 19th century, strong religious faith and church attendance began to fall drastically in all levels of society. When taking a closer look into the art at this time, most all Impressionist artists had common painting philosophies and started pushing the limits on academic style and subject matter. The most noticeable characteristic in Impressionist paintings is their effort to accurately and objectively record visual reality with the color and light effects. So they began painting outdoors and choosing subjects found in nature. Their motivation was trying to depict the people and landscapes without any mythological aspects or historical exaggeration. Once they realized the effects of light and began thoroughly investigating, it became a visual phenomenon. Artists began studying different effects of the atmosphere and how the effects of light changes the variation of the color palette on the objects and people. Shadows changed into a combination of colors instead of just being black and gray, and solids dissolved into color fields. The evolving science of color theory played a major role in Impressionism development, and the color theory's different scientific elements consisted of optics, spectroscopy, human anatomy and physiology, psychology, art history and theory, design, and many other applied sciences. The invention of the camera was a major influence to the artist in this time period. It allowed the artist to study movement and gestures by freezing an image in place and capturing a sense of real-life naturalism. It brought a view from another perspective by allowing them to view the surroundings, the details, and contrasts of each image. This began the inspiration of experimenting with photographic compositions by candid groupings, off-center focus, deep perspectives, foreshortening, and spontaneous images. The first Expressionist exhibition began in 1874, and the very last Impressionist exhibition ended in 1886. The most well-known architecture in this time was called Beaux-Arts, which is a Parisian style that flourished during the 19th and 20th centuries. It was a grandiose elaboration on a more redefined neoclassical style. In literature, new areas of experience were explored, including the impact on the subconscious of human behavior and traditional attitudes. One example is the re-examination into the role of women. This period also began the relationship between science and art, which was the beginning of a new style of literature that redefined the way main characters were portrayed in novels. In music, this was the first time the traditional concepts of harmony and rhythm were drastically extended, musicians began conveying the emotions or moods brought up by the subject rather than a detailed tone. Some of the impressionistic elements of music were static harmony, emphasis on instrumental timbres, melodies lacking direct motion, surface ornamentation that hides or substitutes the melody, averting from the traditional musical forms. After Impressionism came Post-Impressionism era, which was also located in Europe in roughly between the years of 1886 until 1910, when Fauvism began. Post-Impressionists were a group of artists that joined together for their concern of the Impressionist disregard of traditional compositional elements. They rejected many of their art subjects and styles in complete rebellion against the Impressionism movement. There were two major groups of post-impressionist artists. One group has a more systematic approach to the compositional structure, brushwork, and color differentiations of art, represented by works of George Sherdaw and Paul Cézanne. George Sherdaw is known for his technique called pointillism, in which he used small dots of color to construct his forms. The other group has more lavishly brushed canvases, represented by the artist Vincent van Gogh, and also artwork by Paul Gauguin, who coordinated line and color with emotion and symbolism. He would exaggerate his lines and patterns until they were abstract, and intensify the colors observed in nature until it was unnaturalistic. Paul Gauguin also developed synthesism, which is a theory of art where he used broad areas of unnaturalistic color and symbolic subject matter. Post-Impressionists exhibited together, but mostly painted alone, unlike Impressionists. They also were more concerned with the actual subject matter instead of focusing on different light and techniques. I thoroughly enjoy this era because of its natural landscapes. I love to see the beauty of God's creation through someone else's eyes and point of view. The different techniques and brushstrokes absolutely fascinate me on how different each painting is and how all the details put together come to view. I prefer the more realistic landscapes over the dramatic and unreal scenes. And when I view art, I want to see and enjoy real beauty, something that makes me realize how good God is and make me want to worship and praise Him. No other era does this for me quite like the Impressionism era. That's why it's my favorite.